Cults don't start with chains and locked doors. They start with a warm meal, a smile that holds a second too long, a hand on your shoulder when you're at your lowest. By the time you realize what's happening, you've already given them something you can't get back. These are 3 real accounts from people who got out. Most don't. I was 3 weeks into my first semester when I found the flyer. Feeling lost? Come find community. Sunday dinner, 7 p.m. Millfield Road Community Church. All are welcome. I wasn't even religious. But my roommate had dropped out the week before. I hadn't made a single friend yet, and the dining hall felt lonelier the more crowded it got. My mom called every night and I kept telling her I was fine. I wasn't fine. So that Sunday, I put on a clean sweater and I walked the 6 blocks to Millfield Road. I remember telling myself it was just dinner. The church was smaller than I expected. A converted house, really white siding gone gray. Stained glass window above the front door that had been patched with colored tape in places. The porch light was on. A hand-painted sign read, "You are already loved." Inside smelled like garlic bread and candle wax. The main room was warm in a way that felt almost aggressive. Space heaters in each corner. Lamps with amber bulbs instead of overhead lighting. Maybe 30 people sat at long folding tables. They were all ages. Young like me, middle-aged, a few elderly. Nobody was on their phones. That was the first thing I noticed. Not a single phone out. I told myself, that's actually kind of nice. A woman appeared at my elbow, early 40s. Linen dress, hair loose around her shoulders. She smelled like eucalyptus. "You came," she said. Like she'd been expecting me specifically. "Yes," she said, and smiled. "They always find the right people." I assumed she meant the flyers. Dinner was genuinely good. Lasagna, fresh bread, a salad with actual ingredients. People talked to me, really talked, asked questions, remembered my answers. A girl named Priya, maybe my age, sat beside me and laughed at every single thing I said. But halfway through the meal, someone said grace. No warning, no announcement. 30 people just stopped, mid-sentence, mid-chew. Every head bowed at the exact same moment, like someone had pressed a button. The woman in the linen dress stood at the head of the table. She hadn't eaten anything. "We thank the shepherd for what is placed before us," she said. "We thank him for what he has already taken. We will thank him for what he takes next." Everyone murmured, as it should be. I murmured it too. I don't know why. It just came out of me. Priya squeezed my hand under the table and smiled without showing her teeth. But when I looked up, the woman in the linen dress was watching me. Not the room. Me. She'd been watching me the whole time she spoke. After dinner, people drifted into smaller groups. Someone played guitar badly in the corner. I said I should probably head back to campus. "Stay for the sharing circle," Priya said. Not a question. The circle was in a back room I hadn't noticed. No chairs, everyone sat cross-legged on the floor on thin cushions. The amber lamps were in here too. It was very warm. The woman in the linen dress, they called her Sister Carol, sat at the head of the circle. "We share what weighs us," she said. "Nothing leaves this room." People began talking. Real things. A man talked about his wife leaving. A teenage boy talked about failing out of school. A woman my mother's age wept about a miscarriage 3 years ago. Everyone listened without interrupting, without checking their phones, without that glazed over look people get. I felt the weight in my chest start to loosen. Then Sister Carol looked at me. "You're carrying something heavy," she said. "We can all feel it." I laughed nervously. "I'm okay. You don't have to perform here," she said softly. Something cracked open in me that I hadn't meant to open. I talked about my roommate leaving, about calling my mom and lying, about sitting in the dining hall for 45 minutes without anyone speaking to me. When I finished, the whole room was quiet for a moment. Then they all at once leaned slightly toward me, just a few inches, in unison, like plants turning toward a light source, and they smiled. Sister Carol said, "You found us at exactly the right moment. That's not coincidence. That's the shepherd." My heart was hammering. I wanted to go home. But I also, and this is the part that still disturbs me, I also wanted to stay. I excused myself to use the bathroom. The hallway outside the circle room was dark. I found the bathroom at the end, and on my way back, I passed an open door. I hadn't noticed a staircase leading down. From the bottom of the stairs, I could hear Sister Carol's voice. She was on the phone. Tone completely different, flat, efficient, businesslike. Freshman, no local family, roommate already gone, she cried in circle. A pause. Yes, she's one. I stood in that hallway completely still. The warm amber light from behind me reached only a few feet. Below the stairs was pure dark. We'll begin the boundary work next Sunday, she said. By week 3, she won't be going back to campus. I walked back to the circle room, sat down, smiled when someone looked at me. I stayed for 11 more minutes. I know, because I was counting seconds. When I left, I said I had an early class. Priya hugged me at the door, both arms, a second too long. Same time next Sunday, she said. Absolutely, I said. I walked 1 block. Then I ran. I ran the entire 6 blocks back to campus and sat in the lit lobby of my dorm until 2 a.m. because I couldn't make myself get in the elevator alone. I never went back, but I looked. The church's official name was the Millfield Shepherd Community. They had no website, but I found a Reddit thread from 2019, a woman describing the exact same dinner, the same sharing circle, the same grace. She'd stayed for 6 weeks before her parents drove 4 hours to bring her home. In the thread, someone else had posted a screenshot. A private Facebook group, members only. One post was pinned at the top. It was a list. My name was on it. Posted the same Sunday I'd attended. Submitted by Sister Carol. Under my name, in her own words, isolated, grieving, ready. That was 4 years ago. I graduated. I moved away. I have a job and friends, and a life that I built carefully, deliberately, from scratch. But I still don't answer my dorm room door after dark, even now, in an apartment. And sometimes, when I'm in a new city, and I smell candle wax and garlic bread together, I walk faster. My therapist suggested it. My licensed, credentialed, clipboard-carrying therapist handed me a brochure and said, "Have you considered a wellness retreat? Sometimes a week away resets the nervous system." The brochure was for Clearwater Ranch, 5 days in the mountains, digital detox, group therapy sessions, organic meals, sound healing. $800, which felt like a lot for someone fresh out of a divorce. But my therapist seemed so certain. I told myself, a week away is exactly what you need. I drove up on a Friday morning. 4 hours into the mountains, the last 40 minutes on unpaved road. No cell signal by the time I arrived. I remember thinking, this is peaceful. Clearwater Ranch was beautiful. That's important to say. It genuinely was. 12 cabins arranged around a central lodge. Pine trees in every direction. A creek you could hear from your bunk. The lodge smelled like cedar and something herbal I couldn't identify. The overhead lights were off. They used only lanterns and natural light. At 3 in the afternoon, in October, it was already starting to dim. The other guests there were 15 of us stood around the lodge in small groups. Nobody was talking loudly. Everyone's movements were slow. Then I noticed, nobody was making eye contact with each other. They were all watching the door to the back room, waiting for something. The facilitator introduced himself as Marcus. No last name. He shook every hand and held it a beat past comfortable while he looked directly into your eyes. Not aggressively, peacefully, which somehow made it worse. "We don't use the word retreat here," he said to the group. "You haven't retreated from anything. You've arrived." The schedule for the week was posted on a corkboard. Wake at 5 a.m. Every hour accounted for. I raised my hand. "Is there any free time built in? Like To hike, or... Marcus smiled. The work is the time, Daniel. I hadn't told him my name yet. I looked at my intake form on the table, face down. But the man next to me, older guy, maybe 60, beard, kind eyes, leaned over and whispered, "Don't ask questions. It goes easier." By day 2, I understood what he meant. Questions were redirected. That's your ego protecting itself. Let's sit with that. The sessions were long, 3-4 hours, seated on the floor. Guided meditations that Marcus led in a low monotone that made it difficult to stay alert. When you drifted, he'd say your name softly, just your name. It snapped you back every time. By day 3, I noticed the meals had gotten smaller. By day 4, I noticed I hadn't slept more than 4 hours any night. On day 4's evening session, Marcus asked us each to write down the name of the person who had hurt us most in our lives. Then he collected the papers. The Clearwater method requires that we share these with the group, he said. Shame lives in secrecy. We dissolve shame with witness. He read mine out loud, my ex-wife's name, in front of 15 strangers. Tell us what she took from you, Marcus said. And I did. When I finished, Marcus said, she didn't break you. She revealed you. The broken version was always there. We're going to rebuild you the right way. He put his hand on my head. The group said in unison, "We witness you, Daniel." I felt, for one horrifying moment, grateful. Then the man with the kind eyes caught my gaze from across the room and gave the smallest shake of his head. No, his name was Robert. He'd been to Clearwater before, 2 years ago. "There's a second week?" I said. "The brochure said 5 days. The brochure is for finding you," he said. "The road gate locks at 9 p.m. Marcus has the key, but there's a trail at the northeast edge of the property follows the creek down the mountain, about 3 miles to a county road." He handed me a folded piece of paper, a hand-drawn map. "He'll notice at the 5 a.m. session," Robert said. "Be gone before then." "Are you coming?" I asked. He was quiet for a moment. "I can't," he said. "I came back on purpose. There's a girl here, my niece. I have to wait until I find a way to get her out too." I left at Tretiom, 3 miles in the dark with a hand-drawn map and a phone with no signal, using only the flashlight. Twice I lost the creek. Once I stopped because I heard footsteps behind me, just branches, or I told myself it was just branches, and stood against a pine tree in the dark for 4 minutes, not breathing. I reached the county road as the sky was turning gray. A dairy truck picked me up 40 minutes later. The driver didn't ask why I was there. He just handed me a thermos of coffee and drove. I cried the entire way to the nearest town. I called the county sheriff when I got to town. They told me Clearwater Ranch operated legally. No laws broken, all voluntary, no complaints on file. I filed one anyway. 6 months later, I found a forum for survivors of high control groups. There were 11 posts specifically about Clearwater Ranch, dating back 7 years. 2 of them described surrendering bank account access to cover the immersion program fees. One of them, a woman, username, only described being there for 4 months before a family member filed a missing persons report. I searched for Robert's niece. I found a Facebook profile, young woman, college student, last post from 3 weeks before I arrived. The comments were full of family members asking if she was okay. There was one reply from her account: "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." That was 2 years ago. I found a new therapist, one I vetted thoroughly. I don't go anywhere without cell signal anymore. Not hiking, not camping, nowhere. And sometimes I think about Robert, still on that mountain, waiting to find a way to get his niece home. I hope he did. I've never been able to confirm it. I didn't join a cult. I was born into one, which means there was no moment of choosing, no flyer under a door, no intake form, just a life that looked like a life from the inside until the day it didn't anymore. My earliest memory is the morning meeting. Every day at 6 a.m., the whole community gathered in the main hall of the compound to hear Father Eli speak. We had breakfast after. We had chores after that. We had school, taught by community members, and then afternoon sessions, and then dinner, and then bed. That was every day. It was the only day I knew. I was 22 before I understood that the rest of the world did not live this way. The community was called the Sisterhood of Doves. We lived on 40 acres in rural Texas, a compound of long white buildings, communal dormitories, a greenhouse, a schoolroom, a medical building they called the Healing House. There were about 200 of us, mostly women and children, a small number of men, all in positions of authority. The land was flat in every direction. You could see for miles. There was nowhere to go that you couldn't be seen going. I didn't understand until I was older that this was intentional. The sky above the compound was enormous. I used to find it beautiful. I find it suffocating now when I dream about it, all that open space with nowhere to hide. When I was 9, a woman named Sister Ruth disappeared. Nobody explained it. She was at dinner. Then she wasn't. Her bed was cleared by morning. Her name stopped being spoken. When I asked my mother, she pressed her lips together and said, "Sister Ruth chose the outside." Said like a diagnosis, like a tragedy. "Confusion," she said. "Noise. People who will use you because they don't know better." I didn't ask again, but I thought about Sister Ruth for years. The way she used to hum while she worked in the greenhouse. The gap between her front teeth. The way she'd wink at me across the dining hall like we shared a secret. I wondered if she was okay. It took me 15 years to find out. It's being 16 and learning for the first time that girls outside the community are allowed to choose who they marry. It's the specific silence that falls over a room when Father Eli enters, and how you trained yourself to feel grateful for that silence instead of afraid of it. It's the Healing House. I was brought to the Healing House 3 times in my life. The first time I was 14, I'd been caught with a paperback novel. 3 days in a white room, alone, meals through a slot, sessions with Father Eli's second, a man called Brother Thomas, who asked me the same questions every day in different orders until my own answers stopped making sense to me. The second time I was 17, I'd asked why Sister Ruth's name couldn't be spoken. The third time, I was 22. I'd been caught with a cell phone. On day 7, Brother Thomas sat across from me in the white room and said, "The reason this is hard for you is because you're fighting it. The ones who accept it are at peace by now." I asked, "By now in the session or by now in their lives?" He smiled. "Both," he said. Something inside me went very cold and very clear at the same time. I started agreeing with everything he said. It took 4 more days before they let me out. The night I escaped, I was hiding in the supply truck while the driver, a man named Cal, waited for the gate check to finish. Brother Thomas came out of the main building. He walked directly to the truck. He didn't look in the back, where I was hidden beneath a tarp. He stopped at the driver's window and spoke to Cal for 30 seconds. I couldn't hear the words, just the low murmur of it. Then he stepped back. He looked at the truck, looked at it for a long time. Then he turned and walked back inside. I did not breathe for the entire gate check. Cal drove. Neither of us spoke for an hour. Then he said, he knew. "What?" I said. "Thomas, he knew. He let you go. I've turned that over in my mind every day since. I don't know what it means. I don't know if it was mercy or if he wanted us to believe we'd escaped, when really, Cal drove me to a motel 2 counties over. He paid for 2 nights. He left a phone number for a cult recovery organization on the nightstand and said, 'You're going to feel like going back for a while. Don't.' Then he left. I sat on the edge of the motel bed for 6 hours, not sleeping, not crying, just processing sky that I couldn't see for miles in every direction because there were walls and a ceiling and a door that I had locked myself. Nobody knocked. Nobody came. For the first time in 22 years, nobody came. The cult recovery organization connected me with a therapist and a legal advocate. There were 47 documented exits from the Sisterhood of Doves on their files. Sister Ruth was in their files. She'd gotten out 17 years before me, when I was 5. She lived in New Mexico. She had a job and an apartment and a daughter of her own. We spoke on the phone 3 weeks after my escape. She cried. I didn't, not then. I'd been trained out of crying in front of people. She told me she'd thought about me. Specifically me, the little girl who watched her from across the dining hall. I wanted to take you with me, she said. I couldn't figure out how. I've thought about that for 17 years. There was a civil case being built. 12 women had given testimonies. Records from the healing house had been subpoenaed. Brother Thomas's logs were in those records. My name appeared 41 times. I've been out for 2 years. I have an apartment. I'm learning, slowly, what choices are supposed to feel like. But I still set an alarm for 5:58 a.m. every morning, 2 minutes before the morning meeting would have started. And I lie there in the dark, waiting for the bell that never rings. The silence where it should be is the strangest sound I've ever heard. And sometimes I dream about that flat Texas sky above the compound, huge and open in every direction. And in the dream, I'm running across it, and running, and I never reach the edge. I wake up before I find out if there is one. Cults don't announce themselves. They introduce themselves as exactly what you need. Leave a comment below with what you think was the most disturbing part. And if you're still in something that doesn't feel right, there are people who will help you find the door.